talk about President Trump's messaging in his first 6 weeks in office. We got a pretty good distillation of it all. I think we got to see most of it on Tuesday night in various forms when President Trump addressed Congress. Our next guest spoke to voters after that speech to try to get their biggest takeaways. Joining us right now is pollster and political strategist Frank Luntz. Frank, it's great to see you this morning. A lot of folks obviously watched this speech. For some, it was fabulous. For others, it was polarizing. For others, still, it was something else entirely. What was the biggest takeaway from what you learned from those who saw it that you polled?
What was exceptional, and we talked to the right group of people. These are individuals who voted for Trump once and rejected him at least once. So they're the definition of swing voters. They didn't mind that the speech was incredibly long. In fact, they enjoyed it. They did mind that the president focused too much, they felt, on Joe Biden and on the past, whereas they wanted to hear more about the future. They did not like the Democrats holding up paddles and yelling and all that performance that I had been critical of Republicans when he did it to Joe Biden. Well, they didn't like the Democrats doing it to Donald Trump. They believe that this is a serious speech and it should be taken seriously. And as you see people standing up in the background, they don't want performance art, they want policy. The overall agenda, I want to be clear about this, what President Trump is trying to do has significant support, and it continues. What they're critical of is the way that he communicates it. They don't want a rally. They don't want 2024 back again. They want a different president. Now that he's elected, they want him to perform on issues and policy, not on politics.
Frank, yesterday you spoke with more than a dozen voters across the country. I want to show some video from this, if we could, so people can see what's going on. My understanding was an even split between those who voted for Trump and former Vice President Harris in the election. And here's what they said about the influence, interestingly, of Elon Musk.
What we're seeing is really smoke and mirrors. We don't really know how effective it will be, but we do know that he is an effective businessman.
I think he's one of the smartest people in the world, but what makes you successful in the private sector does not mean that you can go in and clean out the government. I think everybody agrees that there's a lot of waste in the government, but we need all hands on deck.
Tiffany from Texas.
I think he's a great businessman. However, it reminds me of a kid walking in a room and just snatching stuff off of a table the way he's doing with the government.
Frank, popularity of Elon Musk in all of this, and to the extent that his popularity is either higher or lower than President Trump's, does it rub off either way?
Well, I wouldn't use the word popularity. I would use the word credibility, because his popularity has fallen significantly over the last few years. There was a time when he was the most popular business person in the whole country. But as far as credibility, he's regarded as being smart, regarded as being insightful. What they're questioning is, does he have too much power, and is he enjoying too much of the slash and burn? Now, make no mistake, Americans are fed up with waste, fraud, abuse, and particularly corruption in government. And they like the tone, they like the process. It's the tone that they don't like. It should be done out of regret, out of recognizing these are real people with real lives, real families, and they're losing their jobs. No waste, but do it with a scalpel rather than a sledgehammer.
Frank, you always want to tone things down. You want people to be more civil and everything. And I know you said they want policy from Trump. They don't want the scorched earth. And we saw a lot of that the other night. It's just, I think that you look at the response from Democrats for this first 6 weeks or whatever it is. It's almost like he's not going to turn the other cheek. And you've seen Chris Murphy, you've seen the paddles, you saw the guy shaking the cane. He's introduced articles of impeachment like 12 times already. He had to be escorted out. And I think a little bit of that frustration showed up with Trump when he said, I could discover a cure for the worst disease in the world, and you'd still sit on your hands. So, and you've asked, I remember the last time, I think I had seen about 4 years of just acrimony. And then once Republicans got in, you told me, Andrew, we got to be nice again. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, now you know, you allowed it to go on from the other side for 3 or 4 years. Now you're asking for civility when, you know, you see what I'm saying? Why should Trump at this point not, you know, when he's treated one way, why ask him to turn the other cheek?
I understand that. And you're correct, by the way. The viewers really disliked, they saw it as performance art. They saw it as a bad form of opposition. And they've been asking the Democrats now since the beginning of this administration, what is your alternative? As critical as I am of Trump's communication, the Democrats are much worse. That for them, there is no policy, there's only opposition. Obviously, I reach out to both parties in conversation in doing my job, and I hear nothing from the Democratic Party in communicating a coherent agenda, in communicating a coherent message. And in fact, what they decided to do with those paddles, what they decided to do with Congressman Green, was absolutely abhorrent to voters. What the public is looking for right now, they believe that Trump's agenda is correct. They want illegal immigration to stop. They want accountability in Washington. They want safe streets, safe neighborhoods. They agree with what he's doing, and they disagree with the Democrats in where they stand. All they're simply asking for is look forward, not look backward.
Frank, what I want to know, though, is on the economic message. And the question that I have about the tariffs, the uncertainty that the tariffs or even the possibility of tariffs create, depending on where you think we really are, what's going on in the stock market, how the American public, how his voters feel about what's happening. You know, for a long time during the first term that he was in office, he used the stock market as a barometer of his own success. By default, if you looked at where the stock market is today, you wouldn't use that as, I imagine he wouldn't use it as a barometer. You don't hear him talking about it. To the extent that there's going to be economic pain, even if it's temporary, and obviously you talked about Musk earlier, he talked about the possibility of temporary hardship with this hope that there's, you know, as I say, a rainbow on the other side, and maybe there is. Will the American public wait for the rainbow? And how much time does he have to do these things if, in fact, the markets and the economy are challenged in between?
So let me be clear. Voters do not use the stock market as the measuring tool. They use the price of milk, the price of bread, the price of gas, the price, obviously, of eggs. And they are concerned that tariffs, in fact, the argument that had been made by the Harris campaign in October that tariffs were a tax increase, voters now see this, Trump voters and Democrats. But what they're asking for is, and I'll use the expression of a focus group participant, an eye for an eye, which is if other countries are doing it to us, they want us to do it to them.
Even if it hurts them.
They want fairness. And in fact, that's the word that I would emphasize.
But Frank, the question is, will they pay for fairness? Because there's a cost to fairness. Fairness is not free. In fact, it's a tax on us. So the question is, when the cost of goods goes up, will they say, you know what, I'm thrilled to pay more for milk because guess what? Those Canadians, we're going to stick it to them.
No, they're not thrilled. I want to be clear about this. They're not thrilled that prices have not come down. And that is their single greatest criticism of the president so far. But it's unfair. He's been president for what, 6 weeks? Give it time. Give it 6 months. Give it 2 years. The judgment date is November of 2026. If prices have come down by the midterm election, they will give him credit for it.